Welcome back. In today's video, we have a lot of big pots, unorthodox plays, and a blunder that costs me more money than I'd like to mention. I was gonna sit down at 1-2, but I got called for 2-5 as soon as I got my chips. I'm ready to dust off $300. Then the floor's like, hey, we have a seat at 2-5. And I was like, thank God. We pick up our chips and head 10 feet to the left. In for $1,000. Let's get started. We pick up King 10 offsuit in the small blind. Middle position limps and action folds to me. I don't know how to say this without sounding like a pretentious bitch, but if you limp call too frequently, I tend to target players like that because they don't generally have the strongest pre-flop ranges, they're generally recreational, and I'm here to make money. It's kind of like poker Tourette's. Anyone who limps, I have the innate feeling to isolate them, so I'm like, shit, fuck, 40. The big blind in hijack call. So we go three ways to a flop of 9 deuce deuce rainbow. On a board like this, I think there are going to be a ton of whiffs. I put in a c-bet of $40. The big blind calls, but the hijack gets out of the way. Goat heads up to a turn card, which peels off the jack of clubs. Now any queen gives us a straight, we pick up equity, and I'm just going to continue betting like I have something. I throw out $200. I think this guy has a lot of 9x and middling pairs like 4s, 5s, 6s, 7s. He's never really going to have a jack unless he has jack 9 specifically, because all of his hands like jack 10, queen jack, king jack, they're going to fold to my bet on the flop, especially when he has another player left to act behind him. So with an overcard to the 9, think it's a great spot to continue applying pressure. We could still have any jack, queens plus, all the good stuff. So probably going to fire a bet on the river, but it doesn't end up coming to that as this player lets it go. Never feels too bad to take down the first hand of the night. Back in my adolescent days, when I was a young stallion, I would go to the supermarket with my mom. We'd walk past the candy aisle and I'd be like, oh, Mom, can I get the gummy bear? She'd be like, Corey, you've asked 5 times this week. The answer's still no. In my head, I'm thinking, fuck! I kept pleading, and eventually she's like, fine, all right, fine, take it, holy shit. Needless to say, I am a relentless, aggressive kid. So when we pick up pocket 10s, fireworks are going to occur. Under the gun raises to $20, and middle position makes the call. Think you could go either way between calling or 3-betting here. Considering I've seen under the gun raise a bit wider than he should, and middle position's in here, which is some extra dead money, I decided to kick it up to 125. The original raiser says no problem at all. He makes the call, but middle position gets out of the way. Goat heads up to a flop of 9-10 jack, flopping middle set. This guy had been playing really loose, as wide as ace 8, king 7. If he has a gut shot, I want to keep his range as wide as possible. For these reasons, I decided to put out a bet of $100. Under the gun doesn't think for too long before making the call. Still heads up to a turn, which peels off a 6 of diamonds. Perfect. This seems to be a brick, and I would like to continue betting for value. This time, I size up to $300, setting around an 80% pot jam on the river. However, it doesn't come to that, as Under the Gun ships it all in for $912. I snap call, never folding this hand. See you on the river, bucko. What do you got? We go off to see one last card, which peels off the king of diamonds. Yikes. Now any queen makes a straight, but it doesn't matter, as Under the Gun flips over king, queen offsuit. Yep, just flopped the stone cold nuts. Next, we pick up 10-8 of hearts in the cutoff. I raise, get 3 callers, we witness a flop, and I nearly shit myself as I whiff the board. I fling my cards into the muck as I wonder to myself, how can I possibly be so unfortunate? I digress. Next, we have pocket 5s in the big blind. Under the gun raises to $35. There's no straddle on, so a 7x raise. That is quite hefty. I think Under the Gun has a very strong hand, or at least big cards like ace, king, ace, queen. So if we hit a set, I think we're going to get a lot of money. The button makes the call. I make the call, and we go three ways to a flop of 7-6-4 with two spades and a club. I decide to check and flow, and action ends up checking around. Against these players, when action checks around, I think I have the best hand when it's played like this. Anyways, we go three ways to a turn card, which peels off a rocket. Yeah, everything I just said about having the best hand, revoke that statement. This card sucks. I check, and surprisingly, the preflop raiser checks as well. However, the button now bets $50. We have four cards in a numerical Congo line, and if we add a fifth into the mix, that's called a straight, which is a pretty good hand in poker. So I decide to make the call. Under the gun gets out of the way. Going off to see one last card, which peels off the ace of spades. Front door flush comes in, and it pairs the ace. Pretty gross board. I check it over to the button, and he does not check it back. Instead, he throws out a bet of $100. Oh, f***. At first glance, this might seem like a snap fold, and I really wouldn't blame you, but then I started thinking about it. If this guy had spades, why wouldn't he bet the flop? I immediately take out all of his flushes because I just think he would put in a bet on the flop. I can't see this guy ever checking spades. Is it entirely possible that he has an ace? 100%. But he could also have missed clubs. If he had a 7 or 8, why wouldn't he just bet flop? And furthermore, if he had a 7 or 8, why would he bet when the ace comes on the turn? That just makes no sense to me. So in my eyes, he actually either has a missed club draw or an ace. And that's what makes the situation quite close. It's only like a half-pot bet. Whatever. If he has it, so be it. I just flick in a chip, and he says, "You are definitely good, man." He flips over queen 5 of clubs. We proudly flip over the 2 red 5s, and luckily, this one comes in our direction. A while passes before we pick up ace-jack offsuit in the small blind. Straddle's on, and 4 players limp to me. Oh, God, my Tourette's, they're acting up! Fuck! I make it $100 to go. This time, the big blind, straddler, and button all make the call. So, 4 ways out of position. I'm done with this hand unless we flop something very good. Queen 9 deuce 2 hearts. I have the ace of hearts, which stands for something, but I really don't feel inclined to bluff into 3 people, especially those that never seem to find a fold button. So I just check, planning to give up, and action ends up checking around. Still going 4 ways to a turn, which gives us some equity, actually. It's the 10 of clubs. Now any offsuit king gives us the stone cold nuts, but this is a board that will interact with my opponents quite often, so don't think it makes any sense to lead here. I decide to check once again, and this time the big blind bets $80. The straddler and button both make the call. Oh, God, dude, everything in me wants to raise. These 3 players are like toys that have manufacturing issues, because literally none of them have a fucking fold button. So, raising here, as enticing as it is, we're really only repping king-jack. It feels suicidal. I begrudgingly make the call, and we go off to a river, which peels off a whole lot of nothing. Once again, going to give up. I check, action checks around, and the big blind ends up winning with 10-2 of spades. He turned 2 pair, so he definitely wasn't folding, but yeah, a pair of queens and 10s are going to take it down. All right, shit is about to hit the fan. We play a double board bomb pot. I look down at ace 7 of diamonds on the button. First board comes 8-7 deuce with 2 clubs. Second board, ace king deuce. There's a flush draw on both, and the middle position player leads out for $100. As I'm thinking about what to do, you guys all got involved in a drive-by shooting. The small blind says, "F you," to the camera. Very discreetly. I didn't even notice this till editing. I'm sorry that you all had to catch a stray there. That's quite unfortunate. However, I have a pair on both boards. There are 2 flush draws which I unblock. This guy's been a maniac. Even if he has something, I think it's going to be difficult right now to get scooped. So I just flick in the call, see what develops, and the small blind and big blind come along as well. Going four ways to a turn, which peels off the 7 of hearts and the ace of hearts. Not. This time, action checks to me. Certainly not checking this back, as I feel like I have the best hand. I put in a bet of $325. The small blind says, perfectly sized bet. Yes, very nice. Indeed. And mucks his cards. The big blind also folds, but the middle position player makes the call. Going heads up to see 2 rivers, which peel off the jack and 5 of spades.
You can check, right? It's going all in, I'll tell you that much. It doesn't matter what you do, I'll just tell you that.
This guy only had like 300 something behind, so I'm all in, dog. After around 40 seconds or so, this dude shrugs, flicks in a chip, and we show the trips on both. This player ended up having king 8 for a pair on both, which results in a big old scoop. Very good, as we take down quite the healthy-sized pot. This is probably the hand of the night. We have queen 8 of diamonds under the gun. There's a button straddle on, and the small blind makes the call. Queen 8 is very loose. Probably don't do this very often, but this table, I'm comfortable. Listen, on a scale of 1 to 10, Queen 8, she's a 6. She's mid. She's nothing to bring home to the parents, but you're not going to throw her in the muck. We're going to play her, dude. I make it $30, and the hijack immediately bumps it up to $125. I'm just going to fold because these are horrible cards. However, the cutoff cold calls, and the small blind limp calls as well. The cutoff and the small blind are the same guys from last hand. They're both playing dog piss. And the guy who 3-bet me is Mr. Rax. So all 3 of these guys they're playing very loose, and I'm getting an insane price to see a flop. My mindset goes from get this hellhole away from me to I'm never folding within 2 seconds. I stick in the chips, and we go 4 ways in a 3-bet pot. What is going on at billiards? 8-5-3 with a front door flush draw. I check, playing in flow, and the preflop raiser bets $225. The cutoff makes the call, and action folds to me. The hijack is covering his stack with his hand, so I'm like, hey dude, what do you have behind? He lifts his hand up, and he has like 8 or 9 black chips. Oh, this is awkward. Mr. Rax bet half pot into 4 players. This looks insanely strong. But honestly, I didn't think he had shit. This is the same guy who played 10 deuce of spades in the last hand, blind shoved over $5,000 last episode. Just because he's putting money in the middle doesn't mean he has a strong hand. If the cutoff had a set or 2 pair, I think he would raise immediately, especially with 2 players left to act. If he just calls, he gives both of us an insane price to realize equity. And this guy wasn't the type to slow play, so if he has anything that good, I expect him to play it immediately. Considering there's so many draws, like 6-4, 7-6, flush draw, plus any turn card is probably going to be bad for my hand. For all of these factors, I'd rather just close my eyes and get the money in while I'm probably ahead. I go all in for $1,500 and get snap called. I feel horrible. The cutoff folds, and I'm like, I'm dead. So here we are, playing a $4,000 pot, and I have queen 8 of diamonds. The turn is a 3, so now we improve to 2 pair. That feels pretty good. And the river is the 9 of spades. 7-6 gets there. Not really sure where I'm at. I flip over my hand, and somehow we're good against a 5. This table is a fever dream. We rake in a huge pot, and we are now sitting comfortably in the black.
I'll need you a bit then.
So the main opponent from last hand, that was Mr. Rax, right? Let me tell you about the first hand that I ever played against him, which was around 3 months ago. In this hand, we decide to play the stand-up game, 4-handed. Button straddles on, and the small blind raises to $100. Suited cards in position against a maniac, I'm in there. We go heads up to a flop of ace queen 5 with 2 diamonds. Not a bad flop. We have 4 diamonds, 1 more of those, and we make a pretty good hand. So when the small blind bets $100, I'm going nowhere. I stick in the call, and we go off to a turn card, which peels off the 5 of diamonds. We improve to a flush, and now Mr. Rax decides to slow down and check. Well, with all of my bluffs, I'd certainly place a bet, so with a flush, I'm going to do the same. I throw out $300. Now Mr. Rax check raises to $1,200. Honestly, this doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't really know what hands he could be doing this with aside from full houses. And if he has it, God bless him. I make the call, and we go off to a river card, which pairs the board again. It's the Queen of Hearts. Ugh. Now the small blind jams all in for $2,000+. Oh my God. I was planning on snap calling any river, but now I'm like, does he really have a 5? Does he really have a queen? This is where the actual dollar amount kicked into play. I was like, holy shit. I'm not used to playing for $9,000. In this moment, I was like SpongeBob's brain with everything on fire. I couldn't put the money in because on the off chance that I lost to a full house, it's a lot of money, dude, and I just wasn't comfortable losing it. That's the issue with playing like high stakes is you just gotta be cool with putting it in. And in this moment, I just wasn't. I really thought that he was full of shit, and all of the factors point to it. Like, his line doesn't make any sense. It's the first hand of stand-up. He's a maniac. He doesn't care about money. All of these factors scream put in the call. And I just couldn't do it. I actually called the clock on myself. Time ended up ticking down all the way to 10 seconds. Then 5, 4, 3. I need to make a decision or else my hand is dead. And I remained frozen. I didn't want to fold, but I couldn't force myself to call. Time ended up ticking down to 0. My hand was declared dead. And Mr. Rax flipped over 8-6 offsuit. This one hurt for a while. To make matters worse, I had King Jack offsuit. This guy jammed all in for 2,000, and now I'm comfortable getting it in. That makes no sense. I call. The guy at Mr. Rax has pocket 6s, so now we're flipping for $4,000. So once again, we're going off to a run out. This one happening to be one of the bigger pots of my life. There's over $4,000 in the middle with 5 cards to come. Flop comes Queen Jack 5. We make a pair and now have the best hand, and we are a large favorite. And the turn comes a dreaded 6. Now I'm in shambles. River bricks out, and once again we lose a massive, massive pot to none other than Mr. Rax. We take our empty pockets, stick in hand, and we walk out the door. For a long time after this session, I wanted to run my head through a brick wall without a helmet. There are going to be situations in poker where no matter what you do, if you call and you're wrong, you're fucked. If you fold and you're wrong, you're fucked. It's like, regardless of result, I used to beat myself up. Long story short, be indifferent to the result. Simply seek joy in the fact that you tried your best. Now, if you don't try your best, then you're a fucking idiot, and you deserve to scold yourself indefinitely. You're a loser. Try to make the best decision. First game we were in for this, out for that. Second game in for this, out for a big fat goose egg. I think this will be very cool to look back at when I'm playing 25, 50, 100. That should be in maybe a few years. We'll see. It won't be that long. I promise you we'll get there. Thanks for watching. See you next one. Peace out.